Welcome to A Brief Respite. I'm your host, Michael Lane. And welcome to the 5th episode of my podcast. Right now I'm recording this pretty much as soon as school got out. It's like 4 p.m. right now on a November 22nd, 2022. It feels weird recording this at my school because it's been out for nearly an hour now. But it is nice to record this at the beginning of break. To get the good vibes. And today I was called sexy for the first time in my life, which isn't a bad feeling. Quite nice. Which it's always nice to get compliments because I don't know what it is, guys just never really get compliments. Or I don't know. Feels like it's more difficult to get them, and so they mean a lot more when they're said. So if you're listening to this right now, be sure to compliment a guy next time you see him. But it always helps. It's always a good mood boost. But also, I've already sort of had my Thanksgiving episode, which is a bit of a problem, because I didn't know I was going to be doing it last week, because it's a little bit unscripted. But it's all I had last week, so that's what I put out. So early Thanksgiving episode, and now it's the week of Thanksgiving. So now I get to talk about Dark Souls. You guys are in for a ride. Of course, my knowledge on this topic is there's quite a bit of, it's quite a broad topic. So this will indeed not be the only Dark Souls episode. Not to mention Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring. And maybe Demon Souls at some point, but I don't know too much about that one. Or I haven't played it yet. So I'll learn about it soon. At some point. However, my knowledge on the others is quite broad. And plenty of opinions to share as well. So here I will indulge myself in talking about one of my favorite games. And you guys will have to deal with it. But anyways. Yeah, enjoy the Dark Souls episode. Where to start? So Dark Souls has been... It's very infamous for being a very difficult series, with 3 of them all in total. Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. All of them very different in their own ways. People have been playing these games for quite a while. So the main goal of the game is to not die. It's quite a good goal to have. And throughout the game you'll come across many types of enemies and bosses, each of varying shapes and sizes and attacks and speeds and health bars and whatnot. And your character, just a normal little guy, rather than having incredible health and a crazy moveset, you have a dodge roll and a sword to swing around. See, the dodge roll is the defining mechanic of Dark Souls, in which you press a button and you roll, giving you invincibility for a little bit. Meaning you have to time these rolls in accordance to the enemy's attacks, to not take damage and not die. Which may sound easy. Well, I mean, it is, but it's quite a learning curve. And so that is your primary mode of defense. And also, you have a means of attacking them as well. Throughout the game you'll find various weapons such as swords, daggers, clubs, whatever you find. Literally anything. You pick them up and you start hitting things. So the combat and the speed of everything varies from game to game. Because in Dark Souls 1, it's a lot more slow and methodical, a lot more clunky too. Your dodges must be precise and accurate, otherwise you will get hit. Oh, and also one more thing. See, every action you take, apart from walking and climbing ladders, consumes stamina. You have a fun little stamina bar, which you can increase through leveling it up. Each time you dodge and swing your weapon, or start running around, you'll consume a bit of that. And, if you stop doing stuff, it'll regain. It'll replenish over time. Quite quickly, I might add. So stamina management is a very important concept to learn. Or just knowing when to back off and let yourself rest a little bit. But anyways, in Dark Souls 1, it's very slow, methodical. Everything's a bit slower, a bit clunkier, and everything I mentioned before. And this was the first one that really picked up steam in the gaming world. Known far and wide for its difficulty and its very diverse boss encounters. Most of them, at least. Another thing about Dark Souls 1 is it's the last one I beat in the series. See, I started Dark Souls in 5th grade when my brother bought Dark Souls 2. Because we could really only play the second one because it's rated teen. And the other ones are all rated M. Our mom let him buy the game. And went crazy on it. Originally I was a bit, what's the word? A bit reluctant to play it. I didn't really want to. But my brother twisted my arm a bit to get me to finally play it. Because he claimed it would fix my gamer rage, or the anger I get from losing in a game or something doesn't go my way. And it actually made it worse. I'm kidding. It actually helped me in a lot of aspects. It helped me bottle up my anger deep inside and not confront it. I've gotten better, but it made it easier to let go of anger, so to speak. Although it doesn't always work all the time. Actually, wait, I don't know if I said it before. Wait, actually, Dark Souls 2 was the last one I beat. I started with Dark Souls 2 Dark Souls 2 is the first one I started with, but it's the last one I beat because I never got back to it. Me and my brother got to like the final boss of Dark Souls 2. We just couldn't beat it. Or rather, we didn't really learn it enough. We just sort of abandoned it. Or not abandoned, we just sort of like left it alone. And just took us a while to get back to it. But we finally get back to it and our save was erased. And that was a bit of a drag. But still, yeah. That provided me the opportunity to do multiple playthroughs and learn a bit more each time. We never really got through it. I can't remember the exact timeline of it all, but my brother got Dark Souls 1 at some point, and I got Dark Souls 3 at some point, which I was quite glad to get. It took a bit of persuasion with my mother, and a bit of bargaining as well on my part. But I got there, and I got the game, which I was very happy to get. I was so happy to get it. Mainly because I thought I'd never really be able to play them. Only like look at them through a pane of glass like a zoo animal. But yeah, this is all gonna be like all over the place due to the unscripted nature of this episode and me just being all over the place, my thought process being all over the place. So it's probably gonna be hard to follow, but the point is to not listen. Although you can do whatever you want. So I'm just gonna stop right here and collect my thoughts. And I'm probably gonna start on Dark Souls 2 again. I'm gonna go back to the combat of it all. The differences of it. I actually scratched that. I will go over what makes them all unique to each other. So Dark Souls 1 I've already described. It's slow, methodical, and clunky, and yada yada yada. Its world design is unparalleled, and goodness gracious. The whole progression of everything is just interconnected and great, and it's really, really good. And the weapons were just, like swords. Nothing crazy. There's also magic as well. There's all these different spells. There's 3 or 4. I don't know if there's a 4th one. The 3 main ones are miracles, pyromancy, and sorceries. Pretty sure there are hexes as well, but never really got into those. Don't know too much about those. See, miracles are faith-based. They often have golden or yellowish tones to them, such as lightning and healing spells. These scale with your faith stat in certain. Oh, holy crap! I even thought about stats. Alright, a little side note. So your character has a bunch of different stats you have, each governing a different attribute. And you level these up with the currency of the game, with it costing more and more each time you level. A lot of them govern your defense and other things, and the others govern your attack and ability to wield certain things. The 4 big attack ones are strength, dexterity, faith, and intelligence. With one governing health and another governing stamina and how much stuff you can carry. And a few others, but I don't really remember them. But yeah. Smaller and faster swords require dexterity, such as curved swords or stuff like that. And the really big swords, such as the Zweihander and the Great Sword, are governed by the strength stat. And as you level these up, your damage will increase with depending on the scaling of the weapon. If you have more strength with one, that scales better, you'll have extra damage. And it applies to pretty much everyone. And with every single attack or tool that you have a stat requirements. Because if you have a big sword, you're going to need a lot of strength to use it. If you've got a really cool weapon, a really cool fast sword that requires a lot of skill and dexterity to use, you gotta level dex. Same thing goes for the spells. But anyways, back to the spells. So miracles require faith. They require your faith stat to be higher for certain ones. And they also scale, as I mentioned this before. The next one is pyromancies. So pyromancies are basically just fire spells. Run-of-the-mill fireball, big fireball, even bigger fireball. Lots of cool stuff. There's more stuff than the fireball, which is kind of funny. And pyromancies have very low requirements for faith, because they are primarily faith spells. But they are very low and very powerful. So it's often used for broken builds, right at like early and very broken builds. So you can get a lot of damage out of very little. And the third one is sorceries. Uses funny little projectiles that say it'll shoot out just like what is called a soul arrow or something like that. There's lots of different spells and very different. But yeah, the one that comes to mind is just something that shoots out a little projectile, a little blue projectile that flies at the enemy. A little bit of tracking to it. This is governed by intelligence and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure hexes are intelligence things, but I don't really know why. But I don't really know about those too much. Haven't looked into them. Probably, maybe I will someday, but I do not know. So that's all the magic and stuff. The last sort of tool you can have on your character is the shield. And there are a few more little things that aren't as important or effective as just like swords. Or just dodging. That's your character can have shields or crossbows or arrows or something like that. With shields you can block the enemy's attacks. And as they hit you, it'll drain down your stamina by a little bit. Depending if your shield is big enough, you'll either take a little bit of chip damage, or you'll just take no damage at all. And certain types of attacks that are imbued with effects, that are imbued with certain elements, might just go through it a bit. And certain shields have a funny little mechanic. Funny little parry. This is a very fun mechanic. How it works is that you press the button. And how it works is that when an enemy attacks you, well, first the attack has to be able to be parried, because if it's a big guy, you can't really parry it. But if they're small enough or they're weak enough, and they throw out an attack at you, you can press a button, and you'll take your shield and shove the attack that they're throwing at you to the side, and it'll leave them open. You can walk up and just stab them in the chest, and it's very satisfying to pull off. But the timing on the parry is very, very small. So it's a bit hard to do. At least in Dark Souls. Because you gotta learn the timing of everything and how to properly do it. Because if you miss it, it'll leave you open. And you'll take damage. Unless you get a partial parry. Otherwise, it'll just hit your shield like normal. But yeah, that's a fun little mechanic to learn. Which, if you ever do get into it, I recommend you learn to do that. And bows and arrows and crossbows and stuff like that, it's pretty simple. You just shoot. Which you can also hit certain humanoid enemies in the head for headshots, a little extra damage and extra stun. Very cool. Oh, I am running out of time. Well, I've gone over the combat. I've gone over the basics of combat. But anyways, I'll leave you with this. Like Dark Souls and all the subsequent games and the one before it are all just incredible, and I love so much, and they've really impacted me in a lot of ways. They're just really good. So I recommend that each and every one of you go out and try it. It's a pretty old game, so you could probably just buy it for cheap somewhere. Maybe GameStop. Maybe GameStop. It may be a bit daunting at first, but look at me. I was in 5th grade, and now it's every single one of those games is just easy now. But anyways, I got like 1 minute left. Less than a minute left. I have no minutes left. Holy crap. But this concludes this little Dark Souls episode. At least about the combat. Though I haven't even scratched the surface. There's so much more to talk about. This is just the first freaking series. Holy crap. I haven't even touched on the lore or the boss fights or everything about it. But anyways, that'll come later. That's a guarantee. But anyways, thank you for joining me tonight. And this has been a brief respite. Now fall asleep.